Today, we've got some sad news for one of the greats. As if Camaro sales last year weren't bad enough, they're way worse this year, and because of that, word is we've lost what would have probably been one of the best Camaros of all time. Here's the news on what could have been, why it's not happening, and just how bad things have been getting for Chevrolet. Let's get into it. For anyone who doesn't know about the Z28 Camaros, here's basically what you need to know. Z28s have been around since the Camaro came out and were probably most common during the F-body years, but after that, the only ones we got were the 5th gen ones made in 2014 and 15. When you look at more of the stuff about these cars, it's easy to see why they were so loved. They had that insanely popular 505 horsepower LS7 engine from the C6 Z06, which already mostly explains why everyone loved them so much. When LS7s are opened up with loud exhausts and they get revved out, they can be one of the best sounding American engines out there. Beyond that, reviewers raved about the Z28's handling, and almost everyone appreciated those more aggressive looks. When I first found these cars, it was actually one of my top 2 or 3 American cars for a little while, mostly just because of the looks. Although new cars came out after that I'd be more likely to pay for, when I found out about the LS7 in these, I appreciated them even more. And apparently, I'm not the only one who liked them so much, because even now, these 2014 and 15 Z28s are selling for more than 60 grand. That puts them barely below the high 60K price that most 2018 ZL1s are selling for, and we all know how insanely well those supercharged 650 horsepower monsters drive and handle. Now, moving on to the news for the 6th gen Z28. Word from multiple sources is that these were going to have the same naturally aspirated, dual overhead cam, flat plane crank, 5.5 liter V8 engine from the upcoming C8 Z06. More about this engine, apparently called the LT6, is that it'll likely make over 600 horsepower and will have a red line as high as 9,000 RPM.
Oh, okay, goddamn.
I've seen a lot of people say flat plane cranks don't belong in muscle cars, but at this rate, if the C8 Z06 still has that bald eagle scream, I'd be interested to see how it would work in a Camaro. For those who don't know as much about engines, the flat plane crank means it would probably sound a lot more smooth like the sound of a Ferrari than the thundery choppiness of other Camaros. Also, since a lot of people are probably a little upset the C8 won't be offered in a manual, one of the best things about a Z28 would have probably been the manual option. The 6-speed manual in the ZL1s handles 650 horsepower stock and is made to handle a lot more than that, so they could have and probably would have easily tossed that in. Besides the fact that the engine-transmission combo would have been pretty sweet, another sad part to this is that we don't know how close it actually got to production. It could have been just an idea approved for further development, they could have made their first prototype, or they could have been close to announcing that it would happen. Unfortunately,
I guess we'll never know.
One Chevy spokesperson told The Drive, "It's interesting when we hear what people think we're working on, but we're not going to engage in rumor and speculation. We've resumed production of Camaro and are looking forward to meeting the robust demand." Now, I know companies always just say, "We're not going to talk about speculation," when they're asked about rumored upcoming cars, but for some reason, this statement just bothers me for a couple of reasons. First is meaningless, I admit, but it's just the way they started their statement with, "It's interesting what people think we're doing." To me, that just makes it sound like a crappy conversation. If I said to them, "Hey, people say there's a Z28 in the works and it got canceled, can you tell me about it?" And they basically started off with, "Ha, that's cute. I love hearing the stuff you guys come up with." I'd just look at them like,
Okay.
Second, I obviously understand why they'd call the demand robust, but it's not like we can't all see the numerous headlines about how Camaro sales have been terrible for years. We also all know how much people hated the original 2019 refresh. That alone led to a huge drop in sales that I'll get to soon, because trust me, that's absolutely worth talking about, both because of the Z28 cancellation and the Camaro's future in general. But even after GM redid the front look, a lot of people still don't seem to like them. I used to really not like them myself, but it grew on me over time, and I think even just a front splitter brings out the angles and evil grin enough to fix it all. I also like them most with a black hood and a full body front bumper rather than having that black bar in the middle. I've even seen a surprising amount of people say they don't like how any 6th gen Camaros look, but especially with the updated ones, at first almost everyone was like, Although I personally like the 6th gens, I can understand why other people don't think they're as attractive as Mustangs or Challengers. I think I've mentioned this in past videos, but I think the Camaros just aren't as memorable because they don't have that strong defining characteristic. Motor Trend pointed out that they perform better than the Mustangs in every way, but the memorable part about Mustangs is how much those engines scream when you modify them. For Challengers, it's the signature cruising weight and Hemi power and the iconic Hellcat trims that I'd say massively affected the muscle car world. If I had to guess what the most iconic part of Camaros has been, I'd say it was the LS engine name they used to use, but the LT1 has been used in 6th gens ever since they came out. Although LT1s are still great engines and they're used in the C7 Stingrays, they just don't get that love and recognition that the LSs used to get. Now for the really bad news as to why the new Z28 has been canceled and why the future looks so bad for the Camaro. The sales numbers for Q2 this year were horrible for Chevrolet. In Q2, 15,000 Challengers were sold. The Mustang was just slightly behind at almost 14.7 thousand. Now, I'll give you a second to guess how many Camaros were sold. Whatever you thought of, probably cut it in half because the number was only 2,800. After doing some quick math with that, it's pretty easy to see how bad things were percentage-wise. In order to explain this better to you guys, here's a highly statistical and scientific graph about how that pans out. All this stuff means is that the Camaro is making up just 9% of muscle car sales. Last year, Camaros were making up 21% and the Mustang was about the same. So this isn't only from Camaro sales plummeting, it's also from an increase in Challenger sales. It also doesn't help at all I haven't seen a Camaro commercial in years, and GM has really only been riding the attention of the Corvette. Because the Corvette is doing so well, although the Camaro is still a great car, it doesn't get the recognition and it doesn't stick with people nearly as much. I made a video a while ago about how the Camaro was said to be ending in 2023, but now there's rumors about 2026, but who knows anymore with all these terrible stats. There's no telling at this point exactly what they'll do, but I'd say things aren't looking too good. My guess is this part of the famous muscle car trio fight that's been on since the Camaro returned in 2010 might be ending sooner than a lot of people would like. I might be wrong and everyone else might be wrong, and it might not go away or maybe it'll come back soon. But at the end of the day, we got a lot of amazing versions of Chevy's muscle car through all this, so really,
It is what it is. It is what it is.
let me know in the comments how you guys feel about the flat plane crank Z28 idea and what you'd guess will happen to the Camaro. For anyone new to the channel, I upload American car news and content like this every week. If you've got questions or requests, send me a DM on Instagram or leave a comment below. As always, a huge thank you to each and every one of you for watching. I really appreciate you guys. I'll see you all next week. Have a great day.